So I found something pretty amazing. I assume that most of you watching this have seen my pacifist run, and you have seen part 4 and part 6, where I used something that I call the 199 trick to basically cheese Plantera, Golem, and the Moon Lord. This is kind of similar. Basically, instead of an NPC limit, we are trying to reach a projectile limit. Yes, Terraria has a projectile limit, it is separate from the NPC limit. There's also an item limit, like items dropped on the floor. Grouped items don't count, it has to be like separate items, like one lying here, one lying there, those count as two different ones. But basically the projectiles are like, you know, everything the Moon Lord fires, even his laser, all the lasers that the mechs fire, the Spastism's flamethrower, Plantera's like spiky things, like so much relies on this projectile cap, which we are about to break with beach balls. So what I discovered after watching a Wand of Sparking Myth-busting video is beach balls do this. I don't think they really properly explained why in the video, which, to be fair, it is a pretty perplexing thing to see when you first see it. But I do have a good idea as to why this is happening. Basically, the beach balls, they are bouncing off of each other, so they constantly are bouncing, and if you build a roof over them, or like put them in a box the way I've done here, they obviously will never escape, so they'll just constantly basically stick to the ceiling. And because they are always bouncing, they are never going to revert back to an item for you to pick up. Therefore, they will constantly take up a space in the projectile NPC limit, or the projectile limit, sorry. And something I discovered is during like any particular amount of beach balls thrown, one particular number will keep coming up, and that is actually the number of beach balls that you have currently thrown. Pretty simple. And this is actually a good indicator as to when we reach the projectile limit, which is 1000. It is pretty insane compared to the NPC limit's measly little 200, but we will get there, and once we get there, a lot of the game starts to break. A lot of things that should work, or that are dependent on this cap to work, they stop working, and I'm just gonna show you a few. So I am going to get myself a little script here. I wrote this auto hotkey. I'm going to activate this, and I am going to hover over this beach ball here, and I'm going to hit F8. Okay, alright, there we go. Alright, obviously I have to adjust the script a little, but that's basically what it does. 1 second. Okay, I think I got it working. If it messes up once or twice, like every 20 beach balls or so, that's fine, I don't really care. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it is messing up too much. So I will leave this running until we hit the 1000 limit, and I will show you a couple of fights. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut. I'm not even gonna do a time lapse because this is boring. No one wants to see this part, so yeah. I'll see you guys in like 10 minutes or something. Alright. So we are coming up on 1000, and I guess now well, I'm just surprised that this script actually... Oh, here we go. It's done. Okay, the frame rates are pretty bad. But, yeah. So the reason I have the Mjolnir is because the Zenith does not work, because the Zenith is a projectile. Last Prism does not work. Nebula Blaze does not work. Vortex Spear does not work. fact, even summons don't work. Which really sucks. So I guess what you would want to do in a normal playthrough would be like, wait for this to, hold on, actually. Hey, there we go. Alright, that's what you do. So you would want this to, I suppose, the solar blaze is another projectile, or, Alright, you can still use mounts, which is good. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you a certain boss that, well, I think we all can collectively agree we all hate a lot. And because I'm not an evil person, I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to disable God mode. Now watch how easy the hardest fight in the game becomes when the Empress doesn't have her light show. This is literally all it is. This is all it is. Oh god, it's lagging a lot. Probably because of OBS. But this is literally all. The good thing about beach balls is, unlike the beehives, they don't despawn if you go too far away from them. So you can keep this going for much longer. And the second phase is actually a lot easier than the first. Just after this phase, she dashes once, and then the whole cycle ends. And then she dashes here, and that is it. Alright. Whoop. Oh! Okay, that was a bit close. Oh! Alright, yeah, she's dead. Goodbye, Empress. And hello, Terra Prisma. Honestly, I'm a little surprised I didn't die there, because I'm pretty sure our hitboxes crossed. But whatever. You get it. Empress, you get to suffer now. How does it feel? Probably not great, and that's amazing. Because now you know how it felt when all of us had to suffer your attacks. The Moon Lord is, basically the same. Well, it's not, obviously. There's no death laser, there's no shooty thingies, there's no eyeballs. The true Eyes of Cthulhu, unlike the 199 trick, they do come out, but they don't shoot anything. The only thing you really have to worry about is contact damage, and same for the Empress, you only have to worry about contact damage. But unfortunately for the Empress fight, the contact damage is actually a lot more consequential because she insta-kills you. But again, pretty easy to avoid the dash. It's a pretty good warning, and you have a relatively long time to see it coming. And what you do when she is about to dash, when you see her wall, dash thing about to happen, you literally just fall, and she goes above you. pretty simple. I guess I will show you... I'm gonna enable God mode for this because I've done all the fighting I want to do. I'm just showing you the bosses now. I'm not gonna do the Moon Lord because I don't have too much time right now, but I do want to show you some stuff. So I will show you, I guess, the mechs. That's really all we can do. Skeletron Prime, we're gonna start off boring here because Skeletron Prime is basically the exact same. The only thing that really changes is the laser doesn't fire, which is like, okay, we get it. So yeah, nothing too different here. Obviously it does help that there's no laser and I guess no bombs from the cannon. But apart from that, this boss fight is pretty much the same. So, Prime, quite boring. Moving on to the eyes. These guys are actually pretty good. I'm gonna switch it to midnight. Alright, there we go. So, once they start charging at you, that's actually a pretty good time to hit them. Obviously, you don't have to worry about the flamethrower. The only thing you have to worry about here is the Spastism's dash. And the unfortunate thing about that is, obviously with no projectiles from any of the other weapons, you have to melee it, or alternatively you could go Summoner, which is honestly probably a really good idea. But yeah, no lasers from the Retinazer and no fireballs from the Spastism. The projectile trick does not change the Prime fight, but it does really change the Twins fight. And the Destroyer. This is, do I have to say anything here? The Destroyer, with its bullet hell laser thing, yeah, none of those lasers show up. The probes do still show up because they're NPCs, obviously. They're controlled by the NPC cap, not the projectile cap. But all of the lasers that the Destroyer should be firing now are obviously not appearing, because it physically cannot fire the lasers because there is no room for it. Now obviously, now that we have this trick, I'll be answering a couple questions, or just giving my personal opinion on these questions. Number one, is this practical? Do I really have to answer that? No. Is it possible? Yes. I would say it's fairly doable if you have the patience to do it, because obviously, as I've said already, these guys never despawn, unlike the 199 trick. You have to constantly be near the statue machine or the bees, depending on how you do it, or else they're going to despawn since they are NPCs. But the projectiles don't, so you can literally be anywhere in the world, which is an upside. The downside is, of course, you have to melee all the bosses, which is going to require a little bit of skill, because obviously contact damage still exists, but I would say overall it is pretty well leveled out. And beach balls actually aren't too hard to get. They are sold by the party girl. One beach ball is 20 copper, which means 1,000 of these bad boys only costs 2 gold. Which is, considering you're literally breaking the game for only 2 gold, that's quite a bargain. Now obviously, the big question, or at least in my opinion, the big question, is we now have 2 options. Due to this, we have the 199 trick, which is controlling the NPC cap, and now we have the, I'll just call it the beach ball trick, which is controlling the projectile cap. Obviously, we have a choice now to do a certain one for particular bosses. I'll be going through each of them. With pre-hard mode bosses, not a lot of them have projectiles. Most of them just mainly do contact damage, like the Eater of Worlds, Skeletron, Brain of Cthulhu, Eye of Cthulhu. Most of those guys rely on contact damage. So the projectile trick, or the beach ball trick, is not going to work very well for pre-hard mode. I would say the only time you might want to use it is for the Wall of Flesh, or maybe Queen Bee. But apart from that, yeah, really not worth it. I would say the 199 trick, in terms of pre-hard mode, is much more powerful, since the Eye of Cthulhu cannot spawn its Servants of Cthulhu. King Slime cannot spawn smaller slimes when he gets hurt. The Eater of Worlds, I would not honestly do anything for that, because the whole point of the Eater of Worlds is like, yes, it will only spawn one segment with the 199 trick, but the goal of fighting the Eater of Worlds is not to kill it, it's to get Demonite, and obviously the less segments there are, the less Demonite you'll get, which is not good. And same thing goes for the Brain. So for the Corruption and Crimson bosses, yeah, nothing really goes well for that. For Queen Bee, you could stop her Stinger firings with the Beach Ball trick, or you could also stop her from shooting the bees with the 199 trick, so really you have a choice there. So I actually got the scripts to work even better. I will continue where I left off once I get this done again. And it shouldn't take nearly as long because I upgraded the script to basically as far as it can go. It used to do this, really slowly, right? Let me show you what I did. This is literally the whole script. It's that simple. I made it click 4 times because that's what fixes the issue where sometimes it doesn't click. You just make it click more than once, and then it will do it. Kind of like how you kick a vending machine. That's like to get the snack to fall. That's what you do. So this is the whole script. If you want to pause and write it yourself, you can do it. And F8 is the key that activates it. And I currently have it on. So watch this. See? Bam. Okay, it doesn't seem to be... It was literally just working. Hold on. Oh, it's probably because I have OBS recording. That would actually make sense. Okay. Well, just trust me, without OBS on, it does work very well, so I'll turn off OBS and I'll see you guys once that number reaches 1,000, or 998, I guess. So, now I'm going to disable my pet and activate my summon. I feel like that specific trick would actually work very reliably in a normal playthrough if you somehow plans to use this in a normal playthrough. Like, when you're throwing the beach balls, you have your pet, and then when you're ready to activate your summon, obviously summons are projectiles, so they are contributed, or they get blocked by the full cap, but you disable your pet, which is also a projectile, and then you're able to get in one summon. Which is good, I guess. Alright, well, the Wall of Flesh... Okay, I'm gonna turn this down. Okay, so the Wall of Flesh is interesting because, like Queen Bee, it is affected by both the 199 trick and the Beach Ball trick. Which one you want to do honestly depends on what your weakness is in that fight. For me personally, it is going to be the 199 trick because while it is annoying to be hit by those lasers all the time, the Hungries getting in the way of my projectiles all the time is certainly much worse. I would much rather always have a clear shot at the Wall of Flesh than to not have it shoot lasers at me, but instead I would have to endure all the Hungries and also melee the boss, which is... it's not easy. Even with the Knight's Edge, which you would probably have at that point, it's not easy. Then we have Queen Slime. I'm honestly not sure which one would work more. I think If you stayed in the air, I feel like the beach ball trick would work better because assuming that those things that she, bounces out are projectiles, that's my first guess. So the beach ball trick would work good for that because while she does summon the I think they're called heavenly slimes, all you have to do to avoid those is just stay off the ground. And even with demon or angel wings, it's very simple. You can just hook. Oh. Now that's interesting. Okay. Well, I don't know. But yeah, anyways. The mechs, obviously, it depends on which mech you're talking about. For the Destroyer, obviously the beach ball trick is the way to go for that, because the 199 trick gets rid of most of the Destroyer's segments, which is actually what you don't want to do, because the Destroyer's health stays the same no matter how many segments it has. So really, you want the Destroyer to have more segments, because obviously you can use any piercing weapon and it will just annihilate it. Now for Skeletron Prime, the 199 trick is definitely better, because as you just saw with the beach ball trick, literally all it does is get rid of the laser and the cannon, but the limbs are still there. But the 199 trick will get rid of the limbs entirely, and the only thing that you have to worry about is the head, which is honestly pretty easy to dodge anyway. And plus, you'll still have, like, projectiles and stuff. Obviously, you would not be using the Nebula Blaze, but I just have it here to demonstrate. Now, the twins, it honestly depends on how much you hate the Spasitism. If you really hate the Spasitism that much, then, and you want to completely get rid of it, then do the 199 trick. It will only summon the Retinazer, and that is consistent. It always summons just the Retinazer if you use the 199 trick. Or if you hate the Retinazer a lot and hate its lasers, then keep the Spasitism in and then just use the beach ball trick to completely get rid of all projectiles in the fight. And you'll be able to hit the twins when they charge at you. Now, Plantera is obviously the 199 trick, because she shoots very little projectiles, or, well, she shoots a lot of projectiles. But the projectiles are not the main thing you really need to worry about, because in the second phase, she gets much, much faster. And in the second phase, she doesn't really shoot that many projectiles, but instead a bunch of her, tentacle thingies start to come out. So the 199 trick is the way to go for Plantera. For Golem, also the 199 trick. Let me show you, obviously, if you have seen my Pacifist run, you know what happens when Golem is summoned with the 199 trick. It instantly puts him into phase 2 without his head, so it's basically a free kill. But let me show you what happens when you use the beach ball trick. So no fireballs, obviously. And no lasers either. But there's still a lot you need to dodge, and the first phase, while it is basically useless except for the fists, it is still there and it will make the fight a lot slower. So if you're looking for the best strategy in terms of pure cheese, the 199 trick is definitely better. So, bye-bye, Golem. That was a horrible dodging job, but I don't really care. Alright, so 199 trick for Golem and Plantera. For the Cultist, I would actually say the beach ball trick. Because the 199 trick, first of all, if you're not careful with it, it will skip the entire lunar event, which will leave you completely unprepared for the Moon Lord. You probably could kill him without the lunar stuff, but I think it goes without saying it would be much, much harder. And also, the 199 trick doesn't really do much on the Cultist. All it really does is get rid of his mimics, or like duplicates or decoys or whatever, so you never have a chance of like duplicating the Cultist or, putting him into that phase. But if he never shoots the icy thing, he never shoots the fireballs, he never shoots the lightning orb, like 99%, okay, that's an overstatement, maybe like 90% of his attacks are all projectiles. Whereas that mimic thing, if you actually pay attention, you have very little chance of activating it anyway. Even so, it's only like 1 out of his 5 or 6 different attacks. And the other 4 or 5 use projectiles mainly. So the beach ball trick is going to be much stronger on the cultist. For the pillars, I would say you definitely want to use projectiles, or the beach ball trick, because obviously the whole way to defeat the pillars is enemies. So if you stop the enemies from spawning, there really isn't much you can do. But if you stop the projectiles that the enemies fire, that will give you an easier time, and of course it will also allow you to defeat the pillars. Oh, I forgot to do Duke Fish Run. Honestly, I don't know why you would even try this anyway, but the 199 trick, I might as well explain it, the 199 trick on Duke Fish Run, all it would really do is stop the Sharkrons from spawning, but the beach ball trick would stop the bubbles from shooting out, it would stop the Sharknadoes from spawning completely. So if you hate those things, which I know some of you probably do, this is a much better method for Duke Fish Run. But anyways, the Moonlord is interesting. I'm gonna summon him. You can't even see the message. But I'm gonna summon him in. And if you guys have seen my pacifist playthrough, once again, you will know what happens when you summon the Moonlord with the 199 trick. And this one honestly depends. So I'm going to show you what it looks like with the beach ball trick, and I'm going to let you decide which one you think will work better. Because this is another one that I think it really depends on what your weakness in the fight is. Alright, so this is the Moonlord. Now obviously he doesn't have any projectiles. That is the entire point of the beach ball trick. However, well yes, also, of course, the big pro here is his Death Ray does not come out at all, which is very nice. But, I mean, if you don't have a summon, it is very hard to reach his hands. So you might just want to, honestly, you might want to get the Terra Prisma. Speaking of which, I think we all know that the projectile trick is much better for the Empress of Light, especially daytime. Because as I said, without her light show, she is basically a sitting duck. Not really, you still have to watch out for her dash, but still. Alright, I'm just gonna speed this up. So, obviously without the 199 trick, the eyes are still going to spawn, however they too will not be able to summon any projectiles, which will obviously make the fight much easier. Although you still have to worry about contact damage from them. This is annoying. Alright, let me get an eye. Alright, so the eyes still spawn, as I said. Oh, it's so laggy. Alright, so let me get his core open. Alright, there we go. So his core, you basically just kind of fall like this. And of course the eyes, you still have to watch out for them. And also, let me stop moving. So these things, these little like holes I guess, where his eyes used to be, they will damage you, so you have to watch out for that as well. So if you kind of do something like that to avoid them. And that is how you would do the Moonlord fight with the beach ball trick. I personally prefer the 199 trick on the Moonlord. Oh god, the recording is getting really laggy. Alright, I personally prefer the 199 trick on the Moonlord because while all the projectiles and especially the death ray are very annoying, I actually have a lot more trouble in the second phase where the eyes are attacking me. And you could just say, well, you can just use the beach ball trick to stop all of their projectiles, but the fact is, I'm terrible. Well, I wouldn't say terrible at melee, but I'm not great at it, especially meleeing the Moonlord. Even with a literal Celestial Starboard enemy Yaomir, the highest DPS sword, and the literal best wings in the game, it was still pretty difficult. If you use the 199 trick, you can get rid of the eyes completely, and you still get to keep, you know, projectiles so you can use other weapons, which is much nicer. Especially for the second phase, where he's basically pacified. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Pacifist Part 6. Do it! Anyway, that's gonna do it. If you were too bored to listen to my boring voice for 10 solid minutes, then here is a too long didn't read version of all the bosses and what is a better strategy to use against them. And with that being said, I will see you all later. Have a good day.